Hello everyone, New York Games here with another video in the tutorial series of remaking the core version of Getaway Shootout in Unity. So in the last video, we implemented ammo and also a cooldown to the gun object. And toward the end of the video, we actually made this more generalizable by making it for any sort of usable object by the player. And this sets us up pretty nicely for this video, which is actually creating power-ups for the player to use. And my idea of the power-up is any sort of usable object by the player that the player can collect inside the map. And the player can collect these by hitting power-up boxes. This is the original Getaway Shootout game. There's little yellow boxes with power-ups. And when the player hits it, they collect it, and then they can actually use that weapon, or it could be a health pack, or any sort of usable player object. So yeah, we'll be creating the power-up box in this video, and continue forward with making these power-ups usable by the player. So before this video, I did make some changes. If I just look at the history, so the most important change I would say is actually adding the original weapons to the game here. So I've created the pistol, shotgun, SMG, and then also I had the sniper in the last video, but I made sure to have the values as close as possible to the original values in the original Getaway Shootout game. So I got those weapons implemented, and then there were just other small changes. I did change up a little bit about the player sprite. It's in a little different format, and it just makes it easier because now everything's orientated correctly. So that was a small change, and then just some other small changes, and then added this power-up icon that we'll be using shortly. So as I was saying, the first thing I want to do in this video today is to make that power-up box be collectible by players. So this power-up box will need to know what power-ups it can give the player. So this then brings up a nice opportunity to talk about scriptable objects. And scriptable objects are a Unity system implementation that allows the user to easily create new data files for whatever sort of system that they're working in. In our case, we're going to be setting up scriptable objects for each sort of power-up item that we make in the game. And this will just make it really simple to load these power-up items and to actually create them and so forth. Yeah, the scriptable object system is pretty nice in Unity. So that's what we'll be doing. So yeah, let's go forth and actually create this scriptable object. So in my Unity scene, I'm just going to navigate to the scripts folder and then actually create this scriptable object class that I was just talking about. So if I go to scripting, Unity has scriptable objects script that I can just click. And I'm going to call this scriptable object power-up item. And I will open it up. And basically Unity, all that does is just have some general boilerplate code, and this is what it generates. And yeah, it just is a scriptable object which we'll be using. And so in this scriptable object class, this will be all the information that we want to know about power-ups inside this class. So I'm just going to define each variable here. And the first variable that I would want to know is just the actual game object that is the power-up object. So public game object, power-up object. And this is just the prefab that we want to create for the player, that usable object. And then the next thing I want to create a reference to, or create a variable, is just the icon of the object. So each power-up box is going to have an icon associated with the power-up, and I just want to have a reference to that. So public sprite, and then I'm just going to say this as an icon. Okay, so that's just our general power-up item data, and this will get expanded in the future, but for right now, this is really all we need to know for each power-up. So I'm going to navigate back to the Unity game engine, and the next thing is to actually create these scriptable objects. So create each one for a sniper, shotgun, and so forth. And to do that, I'm going to create a new folder for this, and I'm going to call it resources. And I'm naming it resources for a particular reason, and I'll show that in just a few moments. And then I'm just going to create also a subfolder and call it power-ups. And now this is where all of our power-ups will go into. And the way to create that scriptable object is just to navigate down to this new tab, and it has this power-up item which we just defined. And the first one that we'll create is just the sniper power-up. So I'm going to say sniper. And for the actual power-up object, I'm going to use the one that we have in our prefabs. So this is just a sniper object that we already created. And I'm just going to drag it into the power-up object to reference that. And then for the icon, I'm basically just going to do the same icon for all these weapons. They're going to be the same for each one. So I'm just going to click sniper, but these could be different. Say if you wanted a different icon for a different power-up, but that should be good for right now. Okay, so we created then our first scriptable object. The next thing is to actually now create that power-up box that I was talking about. And the power-up box is actually just going to load all these scriptable objects and then generate one randomly to give the player. So I'm going to navigate to my scripts, and I'm going to create a new script, and I'm going to call this power-up box. So this is going to be the box that when players hit, they get a power-up. So I'm going to remove some of this. And like I was saying before, we want to load all the power-ups that this power-up box can grant the user. And the way to do that is to actually using, I believe it's called resources. Yeah. Okay, so the way to do it is using the resources, and that's the reason why we named this folder actually to be called resources, is because this function is actually going to look inside the resources folder and find all these power-up items. So I'm just going to define the type to be power-up item. And we can also give it a subpath, and we actually named this power-ups for a subfolder. And so that's pretty easy. So with this single line, we load up all of our power-up items from that folder, and I'm just going to store that into an array. I'm going to actually create up here. So instead of doing this every time, I'm going to actually do it just one time. So I'm going to make this static. So private static power-up item, make it an array. And I'm just going to say items. And all we have to do is say items equals that. I'm going to actually just change this to awake so it does it right on game load. And right now, each power-up box would be calling this function every time. We only want to load once, and that's only if the items are not defined. So if items equals null, then go forth and actually load this in. So we should, at this point, have the item loaded in, and I guess we can just, I'll continue going forward, and then we'll check if the implementation lurks a little bit. So the next thing that we want to do with this power-up object is basically just have one simple function, and where you just get the power-up from this power-up box. So I'm going to say public power up item, get power up item. So we've hit this box by the player, and the player's calling this. We just want to get whatever item is in this power up box. And currently we don't have a selected power up item, so that's what I'm going to do next is actually unload, select one of the items. So I'm going to say power up item, the current item, and when we load up the game, or when this power up box gets created, we just want to say the current item for this box is a random item in this array. Because that's how it works in the original Getaway Shootout game, is the power-up boxes are completely random, and there's actually no like percentage like that the sniper gets chosen this amount of time. It's just completely random, so it's pretty easy to implement. The way we'll do this is go items, and then we just want to do random.range, and it already autofilled from 0 to the items.length. So this will just select a random item. And when we get this power-up item, we just want to return whatever current item that we're holding in this power-up box. So that would work. The one thing I'm noticing then is this would be the same item every time, but it would be nice to actually refresh the item. So once you collect it, it goes to a new random item. So let me actually take this and make this actually into a function. So I'm going to call this void set random item. And this will just set our current item to a random item. We'll call it on start. Oh. And we'll also call it here. So set random item. So whenever we collect a power up, just make it to a new power up. And this won't work because if I put this before, it'll actually reset our current power up item before we return it. So I'm just going to create a reference to the power up item, and maybe I'll just say I for the current item. And instead of returning the current item, we're going to return that reference that was previously set there. That way we can just set the current item even though it gets reset in the middle. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is actually create these power-up boxes in Unity. So I'm going to go to our scene here, and as I was mentioning before in the video, I added this power-up sprite. So I'm going to first create an empty and call it power-up box, and reset transform. And this power-up box will have the power-up box script, but it also will have a box collider. So I'm going to add that because the player will be colliding with this, and we want the player not to collide with it physically. We just want it to be transparent. So whenever it enters this collider, so that's its trigger. And so that's good for the power-up box. Now we just want to add some visuals to the power-up box. So I'm going to drag this power-up glow item just for the power-up. And then the last thing I'll do is create a sprite. I'll just drag this temporarily for right now. Just create a sprite, and I'm just going to call this the icon. And actually, it probably is fine just to do it something like there. And just for temporary reference, this will be like one of the weapons for the power-ups. So if I do that, offset. So if I do that, we'll be seeing a power-up item in this power-up box. And let me just make sure the layers are correct. So I'll put this one at 1, and then this one can be at 0. I'll also just give it a little yellow glow, something like that. So with this now implemented, could make the box a little smaller, maybe like 0.75. Now, I didn't quite finish the power-up box implementation because we actually want to set this icon to whatever power-up item that we set. So whenever we set a random item, I'm going to set the visual to that, so the icon. And that was just the first child. So I'm going to get transform.child, the first child. And I'm just going to set the sprite for this icon. Doing sprite renderer, sprite, and then this will equal the current item. This is the power-up item, and that icon that we set earlier. Okay, I think that's enough to actually test if this is working. So I'm going to actually reset this to just be nothing, and we should be able to now click play and then see if the chooses a random power-up, and it does. So it chose the sniper, but that's not surprising because we only have one power-up created in this folder. So I'm just going to quickly create the other power-ups by doing the same thing over again. So power-up item, and I'm going to call this one shotgun, and same thing, just drag it in shotgun. Also giving it the icon again, just the shotgun. Do it for the other two. Set the icon. Probably should have like a fast forward button for this. And then last one is just the SMG. And we'll create that as well. So set it here. Okay. So now we've created all these power-ups that the power-up box will be using. Okay, so that's nice. Now, again, I'll just double check to see if it's choosing a random power-up at start. So that one was the shotgun. If I restart this game, we'll see another power-up get created. Okay, so that one's the shotgun. Hopefully it's random. There we go. Pistol. So there, that is working. It's generating a random power-up item, and we've already made it so we can actually collect this. The next thing to do is actually collect this on the player. So on our player, we want to create that functionality to know when we collide with this power-up box. So I'm going to do private void on trigger stay 2D. So I could do it on trigger enter, and this would just call right when I hit the power-up box, which is great. And that's how I originally did it in the Getaway Shootout game. But this on trigger stay will be better because say if the power-up respawns and you're already inside the object, it'd be nice just to then collect it without having to leave the object and come back. Or let's see. I guess it was more in the case that like if you're using a power-up and then your power-up is fully used, then you don't even have to leave the power-up zone and come back. Yeah, so it's a small change, but it'll work out fine. So next, I just want to actually check if this object that we're colliding with has that power-up box component. So if get component power-up box doesn't equal null, then we just want to collect this power-up box. So if we get power-up item, this will be the power-up item. So just say, I mean, we can just do like that for now. And already our player should be able to hit these items, and we'll see it glitches, like it generates a bunch of power-up items. That's because the player, again, calls this every frame that's inside this power-up item, which is not what we want currently, because we want the player to actually collect this, and it should not be able to collect it again if it has a power-up item. So this shouldn't be that big of an issue. The other thing that I want to do with this power-up box is to actually disable it once it gets collected for a timeout. And I forget what the actual timeout was in the original Getaway Shootout, but I'll do like a 5-second timeout. So in here, we want to do the timeout. So let's see what I'll do. We want to deactivate this object, and I was thinking a coroutine to activate it again, but this actually might not work since the object is deactivated. Let me just check if it will work. So if I first set the game object to false, and then I create a coroutine to maybe call it like respawn loop. So if I do while actually return new wait for seconds, oops, and we'll just say 5 seconds for now. And this is not return, this is actually yield. So and then we want to just set the game object to true. So I'm not sure exactly if this will work, because if the game object's deactivated, I forget if the coroutine stops, but we'll just check if it works. Respawn loop. So this is how you start a coroutine, and yeah, it should wait for 5 seconds and then set the object back to active. Let's check if it works. So, okay, so yeah, coroutines actually can't be run while you're deactive. So let me just brainstorm for a second. I forget how I actually do this. 1 second. Okay, so the simple change is to actually not to fully deactivate the object, is just to deactivate the collider and also just the renderer. So that's what I'm going to do here, is instead of actually deactivating the object, I'm going to get the component collider and deactivate that. So enabled equals false. And this way it will just deactivate the collider, but our script will continue running since it's only the collider is getting deactivated. And on active, we'll set this back to true. And then the only other thing is to actually disable the sprites. So I'm just going to rearrange the sprites quick to make it easier. I'm going to drag the icon underneath this power-up glow, so it's all underneath one object, which is just this object. And this then can just be done by just getting that first child and setting that to active to be false. And again, and we set it back to active. We want to set the sprites back to active. And one small change here is we're getting the child, since we changed the child structure, it's 2 children. And one thing I noticed too is we can actually set the random item when we respawn it. So I'm going to do it down there, set back to random item. And this way we can just return the current item. And yeah, that should be all good. Let's see if that will work in the Unity scene. So go back to here, clear this. And then now if I click play, and if I hit it, okay, so we hit it once and then it disappeared. Let's see if it comes back. Okay, it comes back as a different power-up. Hit it again, comes back as a different power-up. There we go. So now that it appears to be working now, the thing I'll do just right away is to actually make this to be a prefab, and I'm going to drag it into our prefabs folder. And this just allows us nicely to, when we're creating a map, we can just drag from our folder onto the scene as many power-ups as we want. So that makes it very simple to do that. And so this power-up box is pretty much finished. That's all the functionality I want. The next thing is to actually handle this power-up, whatever power-up we get, and actually create it. So I'm going to do that on a new script. I'm actually, well, one thing that I noticed in the last video, I'm going to actually rename one of the scripts. So in this player usable controller, I'm going to just name this player power-up, because this is only going to handle player power-ups for the full game. So player power-ups, or I'm just going to player power-up, and everything should be fine like that. I need to rename it here as well. Okay, so with this script, we want to have now a public function that accepts a new power-up to collect. So public void create power-up, and we'll pass in that power-up item, which is that scriptable object that has all the information, what we need about the power-up, and I'll just call it power-up. And this is where we actually want to use that power-up object. So power-up object, and we want to instantiate it. So instantiate it, and I'm going to give it the normal position and rotation. I'm not going to change that, but I will change the parent, and that's where the parent we want is, again, it's like that long chain of, let me check, long chain of first child, second child, second child. I'm just going for that holding spot. So get child 0, child 1, child 1. And we could store this somewhere locally on that player in the future, so we don't have to do this in every script that we create. But for now, it's fine. And I'm just going to get store a reference to this power-up item that we create. And the way I'm actually going to do that, I'm going to actually store it as this usable controller, since every power-up that we create should have this usable controller on it. So I'm going to first get that component from the object we just created, component usable controller, and we'll set it to controller equal to that. I'm still not like super happy with this naming scheme. Like, this seems a bit weird. So that might change in the future. Now with this controller, we created it. I guess that's all we would want to do for right now. And on the player, we just have to call that function. So I'm going to create a reference to this player power-up. And I'll just name it something like that, or maybe it'll just power-up. And we'll just need a reference to that when we create. So we'll just set this to be from this. Okay, so this is our power-up item. Hold on, I'm just going to refactor this. So power-up, we want to set or create power up, and we'll pass in that item, and that should be great. So with all this implemented, we could test it now. So we have a error. Got a semicolon. Still another error. Okay, so, since we renamed this, we have to rename it here. So I'm going to say this is player power up and player power up. Okay, so we should be good now. Let's see if we can actually go to a power up box and collect it. So we go to the shotgun, player collects the shotgun. That looks great. And let's see if we can actually use it. So it looks like we can shoot. Again, player isn't like rotating its arm to the player like the actual game. We'll get to that in the next video. But that looks functional right now. I'll collect a different power up, and then the second player can collect a different power up. And yeah, can use it. So there's still a lot of things missing with the system so far. One, when the player uses all the ammo, it should drop the gun or destroy the gun, whatever you want. And the second thing is, if the player has a power-up, we shouldn't be able to just collect a new power-up like that. We should only be able to collect power-ups when we don't have a power-up. Because if you see right now, I think there's like a ton of power-ups on this player. Yeah, he's holding like all these different guns at once, which is we don't want that. We don't want multiple guns all at once. We just want players to hold one gun. So I'll go forth and actually fix that first. So in this player script, we are checking if we're colliding with the power-up box, but we only want to do this if we don't have a power-up currently. So I'm going to go to our player power-up and create just like a little Boolean to say has power-up. And I guess an easy way to determine is just return if the controller equals null. Actually does not equal null. So if we have a controller, that means we have a power up. And so in our player, we'll just double check here. So if power up dot has power up, and we only want to collect power ups if it's false. So I'm just gonna say equals false, something like that. So that should solve our first problem. If we navigate back, you can double check. So player hits the first one, then can't collect any of the other power-ups, which is what we want. So yeah, that's the first bug down. The next thing that I want is that the player is currently stuck with the gun. When it runs out of ammo, we should like drop it or destroy it. And yeah, we should be doing that in this player power up. So we want to know some way or somehow if the gun is out of ammo. And I'm gonna implement this from this player usable, or that was the old, from the usable controller. So which one was it? Let me just navigate back to here. Scripts. Maybe it's, oh yeah, okay, so it's usable controller. I need to rearrange some of these files and drag them in the correct folders, but yeah, we'll continue with this. And so in this usable controller, I just want a simple, let's see, should I yeah, I'll make it like a callback, a simple callback that says we're out of ammo and you should drop us, delete this power up, and so forth. So I'm just going to create up at the top. Again, this is using events, which just nicely allow us to create this sort of functionality. So public event, this is just going to be an action, and we won't need to pass really anything in this callback, so I'm just going to say generic action, and this will be like on depleted. Forget, maybe I'm not getting the syntax correctly. Let me check a different script. Public event. Oh, that was why. Public event, lowercase, and then this is action, and we'll just need to implement or using system to get that in our keyword. Okay, so now we have this action. We just want to like broadcast this on depleted action whenever we're out of ammo. So we'll do a simple check. So when we're using this object, at the end of the use, we just want to know if our current uses, we'll just say less than or equal to 0. And this means that we're out of uses, and then just simply call the ondepleted. And the way to do that, again, is just using that invoke. And this will broadcast to everyone listening that we have used up all of our ammo. So now the only thing left is to actually listen for this. So I'm going to go back to our player power up. And when we're creating this controller, we'll just have to subscribe to this callback. So controller on depleted, and then plus equals. Now we'll just need a function to handle this. So we'll do public. I think you can just do private. So void on power up depleted, and I'll give it that function name. So this is getting called then when this power up that we're using is out of ammo, out of whatever it was using, and really all we want to do is just destroy this object now. So I'm just do destroy controller.gameObject. I'm also going to just set controller to equal to null to make sure that we don't have any like destroyed reference here. So that'll clean that up. And I'm pretty sure we don't have to unsubscribe. That'd be a good thing to check. I'm wondering if we have to do something like on depleted minus equals, again, like on depleted. I mean, we can keep that in just to be safe, but I'm pretty sure when you destroy something, this will be auto collected with the garbage, and we won't need to reference that. Maybe I'll check that for the next video. I'll just keep it in for right now, and I'll remove that if it's actually not needed. So let's see now. We should be able to use a gun and see if it automatically drops it once we lose it. Okay, so we used all the ammo. We just got an error though. Okay. So null reference. Okay, that's just because we're still trying to use this controller while it's null. And that's the if using. Oh, right, because I'm assuming, yeah, we're not checking if null. So even if we don't have an object, and if I'm pressing the button, yeah, I'm getting these errors. So that's good to check then. We should never, should always be checking if it's null. So I'm just going to do it here. So if the controller is not null, and we're using controller.use. Also, we're gonna have to check it here because we do this cancel use function. So if is using, or if controller is not null, again, just check if it's not null, and then only call that. We could use the syntax here, like the question mark, to call it to make sure it's not null. I'm just gonna keep it like that. Okay, let's see if that works. So I'm just gonna, at the beginning, I'm pressing the power up buttons, no errors are being thrown now. I'm gonna collect an item, I shoot it twice, and then yeah, you see it just got destroyed. And then I can collect another item, shoot it max amount of times, and then gets destroyed. And then collect another item, shoot it a bunch of times, and then gets destroyed. Yeah, that all looks pretty good. The only thing that I would like to change just right now is when we use all the ammo, the gun gets destroyed right away. It'd be nice if there was like a little like fade out time. So I'm just gonna add a little fade out time right now. And the way I'm gonna do that is just with this usable controller. I'm gonna give a public float right here. And I'm gonna say like cooldown or not cooldown time, depleted delay. Ideally, I mean, I think I'll actually move this to somewhere else in the future, but for right now, do something like that right now. And instead of actually calling it right away, we want to actually do like something like a coroutine. Oops. And this will be like depleted loop. And then again, this is just using those coroutines to like wait for amount of seconds. So this will wait, and then after that goes through, then we actually call this on depleted when it's done. And we just finally have to start that coroutine and call the name. So let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that will be fine for now. I'm just gonna double check if that works. So hit it twice or 3 times. Okay, yeah, that works. So once you shoot it, you have like a little delay. I guess it's not that big of a difference since I made a small time, but that'll make it look just a little nicer. And then yeah, we'll go forward with that. So the next thing that I think would be nice to implement is to actually get these players to find the nearest player and rotate the arm to actually shoot the player, because it's right now like you have to like jump around and try to get the arm just to like magically rotate to the player. So that's what we'll be doing next video, is actually getting this arm to find whatever nearest target and then just rotate to it. And yeah, that'll be what we'll do. So thanks for watching this video, and yeah, hopefully see you in the next one. See ya.